Hello everyone, welcome back to another Planetarium live stream supported by MRI Global. Thank you so much MRI Global for supporting our live streams, and thank you all for tuning in for another Monday stream. This one a bit chillier than last week. Hope you all are staying warm. I'm doing my best, and I may be covered in layers of blankets underneath my camera here, but hope you all are staying warm out there. And hope you enjoy tonight's stream. Welcome. By the way, my name is Patrick Hess. I'm the Planetarium Specialist at Union Station. And we've been streaming live every week for about 11 months now. And if you are a longtime watcher and have checked out our streams before, then let us know in the comment section. This is a live stream, so say hello, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're a first-time watcher, let us know as well. It's always fun to welcome our new visitors. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the stream, feel free to put those in the comment section. Just random thoughts, life advice, anything you want. It's always fun for me to see all of your comments because it helps this whole virtual thing feel a little more dynamic. So it looks like we're already getting some people commenting in. One of our longtime watchers, Tammy, saying hello from Iowa. We are freezing here, and we are freezing here in Kansas City, Tammy, but I'm glad you're joining us. Another of our longtime watchers, Chris Daly, saying hello, Patrick. Well, hello, Chris. Thanks for watching us as well. A bit of a fun fact about the cold weather. The average temperature on Mars will get very cold at nighttime, but in the daytime it'll actually get well above 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's actually colder here in Kansas City than it is on Mars. So how do you like that, everyone? We've got Donald saying hello. Thanks for watching, Donald. Bill is a first-time watcher. Thanks for joining us, Bill. By the way, for any of our first-time watchers, we have recorded and posted all of our past live streams on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Arvin Gottlieb Planetarium. You can find all of our past streams there. This is our 61st live stream, so we have 60 other streams covering a huge variety of topics. And we'll talk about some of our past live streams today as well. So I'd encourage you to head over to YouTube and check out those past streams if you're just joining us for the first time, because there's a lot of great content that we've put together in the past. Oh, and while you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our page there. We are so close to 100 subscribers, and when we get to that point, we will become an official YouTube channel, which is, the most important thing in the world, obviously. Nicole's saying, watching from St. Joe. Thanks for watching, Nicole. Alexios, hello from Leavenworth, Kansas. Thanks for tuning in. Ken, a first-time watcher as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Mary, first time from Iowa. Love Union Station. Well, so glad that you love Union Station. I do as well. It's such a great building. I feel very lucky to work there, and I'm glad that you love Union Station all the way from Iowa, Mary. Brittany has been watching for 4 or 5 months now. That's so great, Brittany. Well, thanks for sticking with us, and I guess that's a good sign. Hopefully you are finding all of our topics interesting. And then Julie as well, watching, a first-time watcher. And the Andersons family says hello, first-time watchers as well. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, Amber, and the rest of your family. So many people commenting. That's so great. We've got Jessica saying hello. Also, Samara and Reed watching. Well, hello, guys. Thanks for tuning in. John is watching from Wichita as well. All right, we're going to put a marker here. Feel free to keep the comments coming. And we will check back in, but we've got a fun topic today. Our deep dive for today is going to be all about ancient Western astronomy. Now, Western astronomy is actually a pretty commonly tread topic in the realm of astronomy, especially when it comes to live star tours. Speaking of which, if you have not visited the planetarium yet, we are open to the public now, and if you feel comfortable joining us, then we'd love to have you join us for one of our live star tours, where myself or one of our other educators gives a tour of the night sky, where we talk about how to find constellations, as well as some science of deep space objects. And then, of course, we cover mythology. Now, most of the traditional mythology that we talk about in astronomy comes from Western astronomy, and specifically the ancient cultures of the Greeks and Romans and Babylonians. And so I wanted to take the opportunity today to take a deep dive into those stories and cover some stories we've talked about in the past, but a few that we have not covered before, and talk about some of the differences between these Western cultures and how they kind of led to the modern interpretations of constellations. So that's our topic for today. Hope you enjoy that, and that's coming up soon. There is one little bit of space news I want to update you on, though. I like to start my streams with a bit of a space news update. And the biggest news update for this week is that coming up in just a few days on Thursday, the Mars Perseverance rover will be landing. So this is the second Mars rover in the most recent series of rovers. The first one was Curiosity. We've sent other rovers before that, but these are the modern rovers. Curiosity arrived in 2012, and Perseverance will be touching down, hopefully, safely on Thursday. That's going to be happening Thursday afternoon. Now, we've got actually a really fun event planned at Union Station if you want to check out the Perseverance rover landing in greater detail. We've got a bunch of different activities, actually. Some activities at Science City and the Science Center dealing with the engineering of traveling to Mars. And we have a special showing at the Planetarium as well, which will be a special rendition of our live Star Tour, Sky Station Live. So it's going to be a special all about Mars. So our tour for the day on Thursday will be all about Mars. So come check that out. Tickets are on sale in advance right now. You can buy them on unionstation.org. But keep in mind that we have limited seats available as we are following safe social distancing protocols. So be sure to purchase your tickets in advance for that. That'll be a special one-day only Mars tour. And then the other exciting thing is that all day on Thursday, we will be live streaming NASA's live streams in our Extreme Screen Theater. So the Extreme Screen is next to the Planetarium. It's our IMAX theater. It's the biggest flat screen in Kansas City. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have these streams from NASA's Mission Control up on our big 80-foot screen. So, and that is free to the public. We do have limited seats, again, for social distancing. But if you come join us starting at 9:30 when Science City opens, we're going to be having these live streams going at the Extreme Screen. The official touchdown live stream from NASA begins at 1:15, so be sure you're there around then if you want to catch that. Once again, that is totally free. We're going to have some other science activities in the lobby there as well that'll be free if you want to check those out. And then tickets to the Planetarium show are $8 or $4 with the membership. So that's coming up this Thursday. By the way, speaking of live streams, if you want to learn more about Mars, we did a stream all about the Red Planet back in August 10th of last year. So let's search for that stream on our YouTube channel. We also did a stream all about probes and rovers back all the way in April 29th. You can learn more about the rovers specifically during that live stream. All right, before we dive into our deep dive, let's check back into the comment section. Remember, if you're just joining us, this is a live stream, and I would love to answer your questions or just read your comments and shout outs, so feel free to post those in the comment section. We've got Carissa saying that they're a first-time watcher from Warrensburg. Well, thanks for tuning in, Carissa. Trevor says, hi, how long has the planetarium been at Union Station? Trevor asks. Also, is the Nature Center open in Science City now? Great questions, Trevor. Well, thanks for tuning in, first of all. The planetarium has been at Union Station since Science City opened, and that was when Union Station reopened after its renovations in the late 90s. So Union Station has been around since 1914. It's over 100 years old, and it operated as an active train station. In fact, it still operates as a train station today. But it did close down around the 80s due to some heavy wear and tear, and a lot of repairs needed to be made. But a historic bi-state tax was passed between Missouri and Kansas that funded the renovation of Union Station, and it reopened in 1999 along with Science City and the Planetarium. So we've been here for over 20 years now. And the Nature Center, Trevor, is open in Science City for sure. Harley is at Crown Center every day. Well, awesome. Crown Center right next door to Union Station. So thanks for watching, Harley. Paulette says, hi, first time watcher. But before COVID, I visited many times. Well, that's so great. I'm so glad that you could join us at the Planetarium. And I'm so glad you're joining us now virtually, and I hope to see you at the Planetarium at some point in the near future whenever you feel up for that. But thanks for watching, Paulette. Susan says, first-time watcher from Nebraska. A lot of first-time watchers tonight. That's so great, and thanks for tuning in, Susan. And then Aaron is saying hello from Clarksville, Tennessee. We love Union Station when we're stationed at Fort Leavenworth. Oh, that's so great, Aaron. I'm glad that you still remember Union Station and still love that grand old building all the way from Tennessee. So thank you so much, Aaron. All right, keep the comments coming, everyone. And we are going to dive into our topic today, which is going to be all about Western astronomy. Now, let's talk a little bit about astronomy in general, and let's go over here to a piece of software we haven't seen in a little while. It's called Stellarium. This is free software you can download for your Windows or Mac PC, and it's basically a virtual planetarium. It has a view of the night sky where we can look at stars and constellations. Now, actually, I have things set a little bit differently, which is a bit of a spoiler. So let's go back to our standard constellation set here. All right, so here are the 88 official constellations. And right now we are looking at our celestial sphere. What I've done is I've actually hidden the ground in this software. And I can turn it back on just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. So here is the ground, and above us is kind of a 3D view of the sky. But we're going to look at our celestial sphere, so the sphere of stars that surrounds our planet. And that's what we are seeing here. So these are the 88 official constellations. And these 88 constellations were officially ratified by the International Astronomical Union all the way back in 1930. And actually, let's take a look at the dudes from the International Astronomical Union. Here they are. This is a photo of that meeting in 1930. They actually started meeting 8 years prior in 1922, and they started the list before officially ratifying it 8 years later. But these old dudes with amazing mustaches were the ones who picked the 88 official constellations. Now, there are many different sky cultures and many different sets of constellations, which we've actually talked about in the past. If you want to learn more about that, we've talked about sky cultures of Africa and Asia back in June 15th. And then we did sky cultures of the Americas, so Native American constellations and such on June 22nd. But the modern constellations, the ones that we generally see in our star charts, these 88 were picked in 1930. Now let's go back over to Stellarium, because constellations are generally thought of as these line drawings, connect the dots in the stars. But what the International Astronomical Union did at that point is they actually defined constellations as regions of our night sky. So they actually divided the night sky into these chunks here. Let's see if I can make those lines thicker. Nope, I can't. All right, that's fine. So anyway, hopefully you can see those in our stream here. But so the night sky really looks like more of a puzzle to these IAU people. But they were based on different stories and characters from mythology. The general breakdown here of the constellations, let's bring the lines back here, is that 42 of these 88 are animals, 29 of them are inanimate objects, and 17 of them are humans or other mythological characters. And by the way, here's a fun vocab word for you. So classical astronomy, before our modern understanding of science and astronomy, they called the cartography of the stars uranography. So uranography was the ancient study of mapping of the stars. These are the traditional, or the current modern, I should say, 88 constellations. Now, where do these constellations come from? Well, they come from a bunch of different origins, and actually I've got a chart here showing us that, dividing it all out. All right, you can see there. Of course, my head is right in the way. Let's do this. All right, hopefully you can still hear my disembodied voice. But so looking at the chart here, this breaks down the 88 constellations and where they came from. So 13 of them are from a book called the Uranometria, which was a star atlas published in Germany in 1603. And so these 13 constellations in yellow are mostly animals from the southern hemisphere and other figures from southern mythology. And these came from, again, that book called the Uranometria, which was written by Johann Bayer. So we actually talked about the Southern Hemisphere constellations, by the way. We did a whole live stream about that back on July 27th of last year. So if you want to learn more about the constellations specifically in the Southern Hemisphere, check that one out. Let me make sure I bring our PowerPoint back over there. All right. So there we are. Let me hide myself again. So that's 13 of them in yellow. 7 of them over here in orange were from somebody named Johannes Hevelius, who is a Polish, who wrote an atlas of constellations, a Polish atlas of constellations in 1690. And these were assorted animals and tools, just sort of randomly associated. So that was 7 of them out of those 88. 3 of them were actually biblical creatures, described by Dutch astronomer and priest Petrus Plancius in 1613. And then 17 of them over here in red were navigation tools. And these were described by a French astronomer named Nicolas Louis Delecay, who described these 17 constellations in 1763. And then just one constellation is actually from Egyptian history, and this one's kind of interesting. This is a constellation named Comai Berenices, which means Berenice's hair, or Berenice's hair. This refers to Queen Berenice II of Egypt, who was a real historical figure. In fact, that is the only constellation out of all 88 that's based off of a real person from history, so lucky her getting her own real constellation. So that is less than half of the constellations. More than half of them, 47 of these 88, are based on ancient Western myths. And these were adapted from a writing called the Almagest, which was written by Claudius Ptolemy around 147 or 148 CE. Around the year 147, 148, an astronomer in ancient Roman times named Claudius Ptolemy, he wrote this book. Now, Ptolemy was a Roman citizen who lived in Alexandria, Egypt, but he took inspiration from both Greek and Babylonian astronomy and mythology when he wrote this book. He also cataloged 1,022 stars and observed and calculated other scientific phenomenon like axial precession, which is the wobble of the Earth, which we've talked about a few times. So when the International Astronomical Union got together in 1922 to start talking about that, this is where they gained their inspiration. So they started out with Ptolemy's 47. Actually, there were 48, but one of them was split up. And then they picked these other ancient, or not ancient, but historical writings from the 16 and 1700s to put together their official 88 constellations. And so we're going to focus mostly on the ancient Western constellations and myths today, those 47. We're not going to cover all 47. We don't have time, unfortunately, but we're going to cover a few fan favorites as well as some ones that we haven't talked about on our streams before. We have done Star Tour streams. I've done a few of them. The most recent was December 20th, where we did a star tour of our winter skies. And I've got another one on the docket here coming up that will happen next month, where we'll talk about the spring skies. So we've covered constellations before, like I said, but we're going to dive into a little bit more of the mythology side. Don't forget, if you've tuned in late, we are live right now. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the comment section. Well, we're going to dive right in. So back to Stellarium here. We can actually change our sky cultures. There are quite a few of them built in, along with some information about them, which is very neat. But we're going to go over to the Almagest. So that is Ptolemy's writing here. And they actually have a full catalog based on the Almagest here. And so I just want to point out, right now I've got a grid here called the equatorial grid, which basically lines up with the globe. So we basically have latitude and longitude lines, essentially, is what we're looking at here. So we can look at the south here, the southern hemisphere of stars, and we can see there aren't many constellations in this region. So once again, this is Ptolemy's stars, and as someone who lived in the northern hemisphere, most of his observations and most of the stories that he came across were in the northern hemisphere. Now, if we scroll around here, you might notice some familiar patterns, and a lot of these patterns are going to be pretty familiar, and a lot of them have been directly adapted to our modern constellations. But some of the patterns are a little bit different, and here in Stellarium, they've used lines from Ptolemy's writings to roughly estimate what these ancient constellations appeared as. So let's start with some of the most common or well-known constellations that I often start with in my modern star tours, and that is the bears, the small bear and the great bear, also known as Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. So these bears appear in a lot of different mythological stories, but in Roman mythology, we find perhaps their most famous story. So in Roman mythology, Jupiter, who is the king of the gods, the Roman gods, the equivalent to Zeus in Greek mythology, Jupiter falls in love with a young woman named Callisto, who is the daughter of the king of Arcadia. Now Juno, who is Jupiter's goddess wife, becomes pretty jealous of him falling in love with someone else, obviously. And she also discovers that Callisto actually had a son named Arcus, who she thought was probably Jupiter's kid. And this made Juno pretty upset. So what Juno did is she used her magic to transform the beautiful Callisto into a bear, so she no longer attracted Jupiter. Now, Jupiter may have been into that, who knows, but I think Juno's mission was mostly a success, and Callisto was turned into a bear. Now, the story does continue as Callisto, while in her bear form, encountered her son Arcus later on. And Arcus tragically almost shoots her with his bow. But to avoid the tragedy, Jupiter turned Arcus into another bear just at the last second and threw both the bears up into the sky, which formed Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the big and little bear. Now, if we go back to the constellations here in Stellarium, we'll notice that these bears appear to have kind of long tails. Now, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and there are a couple different reasons why we think these bears appear to have long tails in their traditional star forms. Some stories say that to put them into the sky, Jupiter grabbed the bears by their tail and swung them around really quickly, which stretched their tails out as he threw them into the sky. And then some historians think that this actually might have just been a translation error. So we think that perhaps there was likely stories that began using other animals, like raccoons, for example, that over the millennia were just translated wrongly as they were passed around through different cultures. So that's the bear constellations here. We can see a familiar pattern with the Big Dipper asterism there and the legs, but fairly close to our modern interpretation. Don't forget, if you are watching, let us know in the comments. I love hearing everybody's comments and shout-outs. If you have any questions, please let me know. Let's continue on to a group of constellations that play out a famous story in Greek mythology that we talk about in a few of our star tours. And we'll find them over here sort of across the sky from the Dippers. And it's going to be a little hard to line up here because they are at the zenith right now. I guess what I can do is I can fast forward a little bit, get them out of the way. All right. So there we go. All right. That will work for us. So the constellations we're talking about are Cassiopeia, Cepheus, Perseus, and Andromeda. So these constellations play out a famous story from Greek mythology. And this story involves a queen and king of an ancient African nation, that is Cassiopeia and Cepheus. These rulers ruled over the African nation of Ethiopia. And the story goes that Cassiopeia was renowned throughout the region for her beauty, but she was also a bit vain. She liked to brag about her beauty. So what happened is Cassiopeia boasted that she was more beautiful than the daughters, the children of Poseidon, the god of the sea. And when Poseidon caught wind of this, he became very upset, and he could not let a mere mortal claim she was more beautiful than his immortal daughters. So he cursed the land of Cepheus and Cassiopeia with years and years of flooding, which washed away many of their crops and sent their kingdom into a terrible famine. Now, Cassiopeia was busy looking at herself in a mirror, but the king, Cepheus, consulted an oracle to ask what he could do to appease the god Poseidon and ease his wrath. And there was really only one thing he could do. He had to sacrifice his own daughter Andromeda to the sea god. So he tied his daughter Andromeda to some rocks by the ocean so she could be eaten by a giant sea monster named Cetus, which we'll find down here as another constellation, often depicted as a large whale. So now, luckily for Andromeda, she was rescued at the last second by Perseus, a famous Greek hero. Perseus was holding the head of Medusa, which we can see here in this constellation. He had recently defeated Medusa, so he used Medusa's head to turn the sea monster to stone, and he rescued the princess Andromeda. Oh, and by the way, he swooped in on his winged horse, Pegasus, which you'll find as this constellation down here. So that is the traditional story. Now, the Mesopotamian traditions, mostly coming from Babylonian astronomy, take the story a little bit differently. So in Babylonian astronomy, the stars that make up the constellations Andromeda and Pisces, which are the fish down here, are often grouped together, and they form one large constellation that represents a fertility goddess, sometimes named Anunitum, or the Lady of the Heavens. So a different interpretation there that has changed a little bit over time. I got a couple people watching. John watching from KCMO. Thanks for tuning in, John, and saying hello. Jordan, one of our longtime watchers, is checking us out as well. Hello, Jordan. Thanks for watching. Glad to see you tonight. Natasha's watching from Grain Valley. Thanks for joining us, Natasha. And Tom is a first-time watcher from Lee Summit. Well, so glad you're joining us, Tom. Hope you're enjoying the stream so far. And let's move right along to a constellation that I don't often talk about in my tours, and that is the constellation Auriga. And let's find it over here. It's going to be called the Charioteer in Stellarium here, looking at our Ptolemaic sky culture. So Auriga, the charioteer, represents a few different characters, and it's kind of an interesting story about how these different characters have been connected. So in ancient Mesopotamia, this constellation represented a shepherd's crook, and later a shepherd with a herd of goats. And we can see that represented or reflected in the brightest star, which is this star here named Capella, which means little goat in Latin. And so goats have been often associated with this constellation. But in Greek mythology, Auriga became identified with something pretty much entirely different. It was identified with Eratosthenes of Athens, who was a great hero and credited as the inventor of the four-horse chariot. They occasionally credit other famous charioteers from Greek history and mythology, like Myrtilus, the son of Hermes, and Hippolytus, the son of Theseus. But usually in Greek writings, you'll find Auriga represented or associated with a charioteer. Now, because of these conflicting representations, later Renaissance and modern artists have depicted Auriga using both the charioteer and the goat, so there's sort of a weird mishmash that has come out of these constellations, and most of the times when you look up a picture of Auriga, you'll find a charioteer with his stirrup and bridle with just a goat on his back for some reason. So it's just kind of a weird conflation of different mythologies that ancient historians and artists have just sort of crammed together, and we've just gone with it from that point on. All right, so let's talk about one of my favorite constellations, Aquila the Eagle, which we will find right over here. Now, Aquila the Eagle is one of the constellations as part of the Summer Triangle, along with Cygnus the Swan, the bird up here, and Lyra the harp, the musical instrument. But we're going to talk about Aquila. Now, Aquila was an eagle and was said to be Zeus's pet, which we've discussed in the past. He had helped Zeus out by carrying things around with for him, like his lightning bolts. But a lot of times you'll see artistic depictions of Aquila showing the eagle carrying a small or a young man or a small boy. And this is another thing that's been kind of lost to history. Well, not completely, of course, but in traditional mythology and a lot of stories that you'll find, they kind of leave out this part of the story. So I wanted to bring it up for our Mythology Star Tour. So this a young man was named Antinous, and we can see it's actually depicted here, the eagle carrying the young man, which we see as the lines down here. Now, this young man is named Antinous, and he was a real historical figure. In ancient Roman times, around the 2nd century in the Common Era, this young man, Antinous, was actually the lover of Hadrian, who was the Roman emperor at the time. This is also when Ptolemy was putting together his catalog, the catalog that we are using right now, that the International Astronomical Union used for these constellations. And so Hadrian had this lover named Antinous, this young man. And in fact, he was the first Roman emperor that was very open with his relationship with Antinous. And Antinous unfortunately did die under some shady circumstances, but at any rate, according to the story, Hadrian, the emperor, requested that Ptolemy add Antinous to his catalog as he was writing it to honor him after the young man's death. If you, we just passed Valentine's Day, and if you got a good Valentine's gift, then just think you could have a Roman emperor literally put you in the stars. That is how much Hadrian's love was for Antinous. Hadrian was also so obsessed with Antinous that he started a cult to worship him, worship the young man as a god, which actually ended up being one of the most popular and enduring cults of a deified human during the Roman Empire. So that might have gotten into a little crazy territory, but at any rate, how's that for love? All right, let's check into the comments. We've got Brian tuning in from KCK. Thanks for watching, Brian. Brian says, our family loves watching the Planetarium live streams. How cold is it in space right now? Brian, it's very cold in space. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but so the maximum temperature on Mars actually can get to be in the teens and around the equator. So the past few days, it has been colder than Mars during the daytime here in Kansas City and much of the Midwest. So Brian, it is pretty cold in space, but you know what? I think we've got it pretty cold here as well. Jennifer is watching from North Kansas City. Thanks for tuning in, Jennifer. Jim says the Union Station is responsible for making Kansas City a unique place to visit and live. And let's not forget to have fun. That's right, Jim. So glad you love Union Station. Union Station loves you right back. So thank you all so much for commenting and checking us out. Remember, if you have any more comments or questions, then please put those in the comment section. But let's continue our stream and let's talk about a group of constellations we've mentioned before called the Zodiac. I want to put up a marking here. Hopefully I can find it quickly. I'm going to just press all these buttons. Hopefully it is there. Okay, yeah, great. There it is. Oh, it's a yellow line. Very helpful. Let's change that to red. Cool. Perfect. All right, so let's talk about the Zodiac. So the Zodiac is a group of 12 constellations. A lot of people know these constellations. They're pretty famous. They pop up in the newspaper. They're associated with astrology, which is the practice of using constellations to try to predict things about people, like your horoscope or your personality. But astrology dates back, the origins of astrology date back thousands of years. And really for thousands of years, since before the times that we're talking about our stream today, humans have seen significance in the constellations of the Zodiac because of their significance and because of their association with this line I just added called the ecliptic. Now, the ecliptic here represents the apparent path that the sun takes throughout the sky. So, as the Earth goes around the sun, the Earth orbits the sun in a plane, in a big disk, essentially, a big pancake or frisbee. And so, from us here on Earth, the sun will always appear to follow a single plane in our sky. It will follow one line across the sky as it appears to move, as the Earth goes around it, and our perspective changes. I dive into this more in depth in some of our past star tours. I'd encourage you to come to the Planetarium because we have a great visualization depicting that. But suffice it to say that these this line here, the ecliptic, has been very significant throughout human history, and the constellations and star patterns people have made on this line have been significant as well, and we typically call these the Zodiac. Now, the most popular modern 12 constellations of the Zodiac come from Babylonian tradition, actually dating back all the way to Bronze Age mythology. So we're talking about tens of thousands of years, way back in time. Here is a really cool graphic showing a very early Babylonian inscription of the constellations of the Zodiac. So now the official constellations of the Zodiac, we can kind of trace them back to the 5th century BCE when Babylonian astronomers divided the ecliptic into 12 equal parts, or signs as we call them, covering about 30 degrees each of our celestial longitude. Then Babylonian astronomers used this to create their star catalog and coordinate system. They even use this coordinate system for daytime navigation. By the way, if you want to learn more about celestial navigation, check out my November 16th live stream, which was very cool. I was actually on vacation when I filmed that stream, and I filmed it on location. So if you haven't checked that one out, you for sure should. Again, that's November 16th, because it's a pretty goofy live stream that you might not expect where it takes place. So pretty proud of that one. I'd love for you to check that one out. Again, go over to YouTube and search for Arvin Gottlieb Planetarium, where you can find all of our past streams, and be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube while you're there. Now, due to precession, which is the wobble of the Earth, the dates of the Zodiac have actually changed significantly since Babylonian times. For example, during the vernal equinox in Babylonian times, the sun was in the house of Aries, so Aries was associated with springtime, but now it is in the house of Pisces, and so things have shifted a little bit. In fact, every 12 years you will hear about the dates of the Zodiac changing as our coordinate systems are updated due to axial precession. Babylonians also recorded the positions of the planets with respect to their sign, and modern astrology involves planetary signs as well, and that's because the planets will orbit the sun along this same plane. So all the planets go around the sun in the roughly the same disk that the Earth does, so you'll find planets in the ecliptic here as well. Now, the Greek astronomers, they borrowed Babylonian astrology and these 12 constellations, and they pretty much translated them one-to-one with the patterns and the characters they represented. But there were some changes that I wanted to kind of quickly go over. For example, let's talk about Cancer, the crab here, which we can see depicted as a crab in our chart. But the Babylonians actually saw this as a different figure, and the Babylonian astronomy, which we saw over here. The Babylonians saw this as actually a turtle. So in their mythology, this turtle, which we can see right up here, this turtle was said to be responsible for pushing the sun across the heavens, which initiated the summer solstice. This might remind you of another fictional turtle swimming through the cosmos, which we've talked about in a past live stream. That is the turtle Atuin from the Discworld novel series. If you want to learn more about some other fantastical universes of fiction, check out our May 20th live stream from last year, where we take a deep dive into the astronomy of some fictional universes like Discworld or Game of Thrones. That was a fun live stream. But at any rate, so Cancer the crab started out as a turtle. The Greeks saw this crab, though, as a monster that battled the hero Hercules, and Hercules kicked it into the sky, and that's why it's up there. We have Gemini the twins right next door, and these were twins in both Babylonian and Greek mythology. The Babylonians, though, saw this as a pair of twins named Meslemtea and Lugalira, who were the guards of the doorway to the underworld. Very different, though, in Greek mythology. These twins were said to be Castor and Pollux, who were a pair of great heroes and members of the Argonauts. They're also associated with St. Elmo's fire for their role in protecting sailors. It's a fun constellation to look at because it kind of looks like two stick figures holding hands, one of the easiest ones to spot. Also, I wanted to bring up Leo the lion, which we will find right over here, the lion constellation. Leo was actually a pretty similar character in Greek and Babylonian mythology. The Babylonians saw this as the monster Humbaba, who was killed by their hero Gilgamesh, and the Greeks saw this as the monster Nemean lion, which was killed by their hero Hercules. So a lot of these did sort of get translated, just with different characters replacing them between the mythology traditions. Looks like Rachel has enjoyed that Discworld reference. Rachel says, "Yay, Atuin! Discworld is one of my favorite fictional places." It's a pretty fun novel series. If anybody out there enjoys writings like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that sort of goofy but smart writing, then you would really love Terry Pratchett's Discworld as well. One of my favorite series. Linda says, "Thanks, Patrick." Well, thank you, Linda, for watching. Glad you're here joining us. And then Corey says, "Hi from Lawrence." Thanks for watching, Corey. Thank you to everyone who has commented throughout the stream. Now, okay, so we've covered a few of the zodiac, and I'm actually going to leave it there because there are a few other zodiac constellations. We have talked about them in the past, but I want to kind of plant a little seed here, because if you are interested in learning more about the zodiac specifically, and maybe taking a deep dive into astrology, that is a topic we have not really covered in detail, and that could be something we cover in a future live stream. So let us know in the comments if you're interested in a deep dive into astrology and its history, or we can cover some of these other constellations. That could be a lot of fun. But for now, we are going to cover one last constellation, and this is a constellation we've covered in our star tours before, but it's worth bringing up and a great place to end our stream today. So, by the way, we are coming close to the end of our stream, so if you have any last minute questions or comments or shout outs, put those in the comment section now, because we are going to finish things up by talking about Orion. Orion the Hunter, the brightest constellation in the night sky, which is probably why it pops up in many different mythological traditions, including a lot of Western mythology. In fact, the earliest known depictions date back tens of thousands of years. There is actually a prehistoric mammoth ivory carving that was found in a German cave dating back 32 to 38,000 years. That is a long, long time ago. Here is a picture of that tusk carving. Now, it might look a little vague, but the historians who know what they're talking about, the archaeologists as well, have a pretty good inclination that this depicted, or likely depicted, the constellation Orion. The Babylonian star catalogs of the late Bronze Age named Orion as the Heavenly Shepherd. He was said to be a herald of the gods in human form, and he had an animal form as well, which is represented by the constellation Lepus. Now, in Greek mythology and modern mythology, this is the rabbit constellation, the hare constellation. In Babylonian mythology, he was said to be a rooster. So kind of weird that that transferred from a rooster to a rabbit. I'm not sure where the mistranslation came there. But in Greek mythology, this hare was said to be being chased by Orion's hunting dogs, which are the constellations Canis Major and Canis Minor. Now, in Greek mythology, Orion was a very famous hunter, but kind of like Cassiopeia, Orion enjoyed bragging about himself. One day, Orion boasted that he was such a good hunter he could capture every animal on Earth if he wanted to. When Artemis, the Greek goddess of the hunt, heard this boast, this made her very upset. After all, it was her job to protect the animals on Earth, so as punishment, she sent a giant scorpion monster down from Mount Olympus to battle Orion and teach him a lesson. Now, the scorpion is represented by the zodiac constellation Scorpius, but it's all the way here on the other side of the sky. Now, the story goes that the scorpion here and the hunter were so evenly matched that they fought for 7 days straight without stopping. And they became so exhausted that at the last second they struck fatal blows on one another, and as they were both about to perish, Zeus, the king of the gods, stepped in. Turns out Zeus had been watching this spectacle, and he was so entertained by their fight that he captured them and threw them both up into the heavens so that they would continue to fight and chase each other through all eternity. And the two constellations never quite catch up to one another because Orion's a winter constellation and Scorpius is a summer constellation. So their battle will continue forever. Orion also pops up in a number of places in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey as well. So there you go, folks. That's a little bit of a background on some constellations we've covered in the past, some we haven't seen before. And while I make you really dizzy here accidentally, sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Western astronomy. It is the 15th of February, and a month from now, I'll definitely want to beware those Ides of March. That's actually why I did this stream today. It is a month early, but March 15th is a famous date in Roman history, allegedly the date that Caesar was assassinated. But the Ides of February hopefully will be a little bit easier on you all besides the chilly weather. And so we are going to start wrapping up this stream. Let's check out over in the comments, just a couple more comments. We've got a question actually from Jessica that says, how high up does space start? That is a great question, Jessica, and I would love to answer that. And there, let me see if I can find us a good graphic here that will show us a little bit of that. So we define space in a few different ways, and there are different things in space that you'll find in different places. So let me get this graphic over here. So here's a kind of a little wedge graphic showing us sea level at the bottom here, and then we've got clouds there as well. And there are different levels of the atmosphere, and there is part of the atmosphere where you'll see meteors, shooting stars. And so you could argue that that is kind of space as well. That's where space rocks come into the atmosphere. And then there is around where the northern lights take place, which is above the mesosphere, and then the International Space Station orbits right around 330 kilometers. But basically, where functionally we consider space is around where the International Space Station orbits, because that is about as close to the Earth as you can get while not falling down to the Earth. So it is orbiting at about 250 miles above sea level. And so if it got anywhere closer, it would actually experience air resistance that would slow it down. Now, the International Space Station does experience air resistance, so there's actually measurable atmosphere where the International Space Station orbits. So you could argue that it's not even really in space, but there's so little atmosphere that it falls very slowly, and every once in a while it needs to kind of push itself back up. But if it got much closer, there'd be so much air resistance that it would slow down even more and fall back down to Earth. So it's kind of a soft line, basically, Jessica. That's a good question because there is no hard line, but you can kind of argue where usually we orbit. The closest we usually get for our orbiters, and that's at around about 200 miles up there. But that's a great question, Jessica. Also, Jessica asked, what are shooting stars? Oh, we talked about that a little bit. Pointed out here, shooting stars are space rocks that enter the Earth's atmosphere and ignite, glowing very, very hot and red, or not red necessarily, but just very bright, I guess, as they heat up. Now, these bits of space rocks and dust are actually in clouds orbiting the sun, and that's why meteor showers are predictable. There are annual meteor showers that happen at the same time every year as the Earth passes through the same region of space as it orbits the sun every year. A lot of these bits of space debris are actually left over from passing comets. But as these little particles enter the atmosphere, they experience air resistance. And as that air pushes up against them, that friction and pressure causes them to heat up. And then they will ignite and glow brightly. And that's what a shooting star is. So great question, Jessica. Thanks for asking those awesome questions there at the end. And one last comment from Chris, who says, thank you again for another awesome episode. Well, thank you, Chris, for being awesome. And thank you, everyone else, for being awesome as well for watching our stream today. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into classical mythology. Let us know again in the comments if you are interested in doing a deep dive into astrology and a little bit more about the zodiac. But for now, we are going to start signing off. I want to thank you all again for supporting Union Station and the Planetarium by watching our live streams. Don't forget, you can come to the Planetarium if you feel comfortable. We are requiring masks in all of our Union Station attractions as well as social distancing, but we do have half of our capacity available, and you can purchase tickets online in advance to see one of our live shows, excuse me. And don't forget, this Thursday we have our free event at the IMAX Theater, the Extreme Screen, where you can watch the mission control stream of the Perseverance landing, and we're also doing a special one-day only Mars tour at the Planetarium, so that will only happen this Thursday, so be sure to buy your tickets in advance for that. I want to thank our supporting sponsor, MRI Global, again for supporting these live streams and Union Station and all of our other programs. So thank you, MRI Global, for supporting us and these stream endeavors. Yeah, we're going to wrap things up. I've been your Planetarium Specialist, Patrick Hess. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, and there's one other special guest that hasn't joined us, but we'll start signing off. If you want to say hi to my assistant, Phoebe, I'm going to go grab her, but we'll just kind of do a slow play out. I'll be right back. All right, everyone, and if anybody's stuck around, welcome back to Phoebe, my special planetarium assistant. You want to say hi, Phoebe? Phoebe is very chilly today, but she's happy you all joined us for the stream. So thank you all again so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another fun topic, but we will see you soon. And oh, one last thing I forgot to mention, I'll also be doing a live stream Thursday night to kind of recap the Perseverance landing. So be sure to check that out. We'll be posting links to that on our Facebook page. So we'll do a special stream this Thursday to talk about the landing, and then we'll be back next Monday for our next stream. So thank you all again for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Tara says, thank you. My 7-year-old loves this, and you do too. Well, thank you, Tara. Jessica says, thanks. Tammy, thank you again. And Brian, cheers, Patrick. Thank you all so much for watching. Karen says, hi, Phoebe. So glad you stuck around to say hi to Phoebe. And Phoebe says, hello back. You want to give everyone a Valentine's Day kisses? Yeah? Come on, give me a kiss. That was me. You're not gonna do it? No kisses? Stop feeling like you're a pink bird. You gotta give everyone kisses. Nope, doesn't feel like it. Everybody is enjoying saying hi to Phoebe. All right, everyone. Well, we're gonna sign off here. Thank you again so much for joining us and supporting the Planetarium. We'll see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.